From advertising to software as a service to data.
Across all of our programs and clients, we've seen a 55 to 65% open rate.
Getting brands authentically integrated into content performs better than TV advertising.
Typical lifespan of an article is about 24 to 36 hours.
If we're reaching out to the right person with the right message and a clear call to action, then it's just a matter of timing.
Welcome to the MarTech Podcast, and I Hear Everything production. In this podcast, you'll hear the stories of world-class marketers that use technology to drive business results and achieve career success. We'll unearth the real-world experiences of some of the brightest minds in the marketing and technology space so you can learn the tools, tips, and tricks they've learned along the way. Now here's the host of the MarTech Podcast, Benjamin Shapiro.
Welcome to the MarTech Podcast. I'm your host, Benjamin Shapiro, and today we're going to talk about how artificial intelligence and big data are affecting the future of public relations. Joining us is Michelle Songy, who is the CEO and founder of PressHook, which is an exciting new tech-enabled public relations platform startup founded by a female CEO and serial entrepreneur that is transforming the $100 billion industry of PR. Michelle was recently named to PR Week's dashboard of the top 25 most influential people in communications technology, and her company PressHook offers the first two-sided marketplace that intelligently connects consumer brands and PR agencies seeking publicity with journalists who want to cover their stories. And today, Michelle and I are going to discuss how artificial intelligence is transforming public relations. All right, here's the first part of my conversation with Michelle Songy, the CEO and founder of PressHook. Michelle, welcome to the MarTech Podcast.
Hi there. Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Excited to have you here. Excited to talk a little bit about two forms of marketing that I wouldn't necessarily think are super related. The heavy technical usage, the topic of the year, artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, OpenAI. It's like the only thing we talk about now. And public relations, PR, working with journalists. Talk to me about how these two things are related.
I think some of these things we thought being in the PR world, it's not one of the most innovative industries in the world, and it's been a bit antiquated. But I think we are seeing that with the newness of OpenAI and ChatGPT and the features and enhancements that it's made, things that we've thought in the future were a possibility are happening a lot quicker than we expected. There's really three things I see it really influencing, and one is content creation. So anything about like education or helping people be more efficient and learn. For example, we built something of like how to build a press release, how to build a pitch to a media. A lot of small businesses and people might not know how to do this. And it's just really stressful or it's scary to have to write or do. And this just helps people, first of all, just help create this amazing educational content and resources that they wouldn't have before. So creating content quicker and faster and in better ways using machine learning. Secondly, I think just discovery and relevancy. So AI is just helping us getting through the noise and clutter in this space. Being a journalist, you're constantly looking for new trends and topics. You get assignments and have to figure out who to contact and like, where's the expert and who's just cutting through it all. So just the ability to like really serve them relevancy and really cut through, again, that noise is really making a huge impact right now. And three, I just think like overall communication, just helping this industry of brands and publicists and journalists connect and collaborate and helping them connect with one another in more relevant ways than we ever have been able to do before.
Artificial intelligence is making us more efficient. We're basically able to outsource our brain. And you mentioned that this is essentially content creation, it's research, it's also connections. I think of public relations being mostly about the R, right? It is building relationships with people that have influence and can cover your story to try to get them to write about you in a positive way, build prominence, build awareness. Tell me about how artificial intelligence is helping journalists build relationships with brands that want coverage.
On both sides, as a journalist, and you might be a new staff journalist just starting a new publication, you see a lot of movement too in the industry of people going between different publications and freelance, but you get assigned a topic and you need to find the most relevant type of brands for your story. It can be hard to identify those brands and products to see what's out there. Use Google search. You might post it on your Twitter and get a bunch of responses. but they can really just identify who those most relevant people are or relevant experts they might need for their story or the most relevant brands and innovative brands are looking for and actually find their contact and be able to contact them a lot quicker than they ever have been before.
So tell me a little bit more about artificial intelligence from the journalist point of view. Are journalists using things like ChatGPT to research who are the most prominent speakers, who are the most interesting companies? How do journalists actually use the artificial intelligence sources?
So I think journalists are using ChatGPT and that intelligence and big data. For example, they could type in a topic that they were assigned and ask it to give them results on what are types of products for the story that I could include, sorted by relevancy. Who are some experts in the industry I could contact? They can ask it for data. They can even go so far to have it write the full article for them. They still need to edit it and review it. And there's a lot more to it, but it helps them using this big data that we've never been so fortunate enough to have access to ever to really find and fine tune that person or that subject matter expert or that business. It helps them bring all that to the surface.
Yeah, every time I've used ChatGPT when I'm thinking about content, it's very much been like, hey, can you write a blog post about what is MarTech? And essentially it gives the outline. There's obviously things that I have to reword and add a personal touch and stories and experiences to make it a full-fledged piece of content. But the general structure is there. So I could see how for journalists, it's like, I need to write a 1,000-word piece on podcasting in the MarTech industry. ChatGPT will give me the first 500 words and a nice structure for the article, and then I can polish it. There's also the research phase, which is who should I talk to about X, Y, and Z topic? I want to flip the coin here and not just the journalists creating content, but talk to me about some of the way that the marketers that are listening to this podcast can start to leverage artificial intelligence or just generally what resources they should use in today's AI-centric world to be able to do a better job getting attention through press for their brand.
One ways marketers can use it is it helps them to find topics or angles for the clients that they're overseeing or the brand that they're working for. So you can use it to find new angles for your own brand. And then also another way we see a lot of people using it is to identify what media, so it could be journalists or YouTubers, are the most relevant for your brand for a certain pitch or for a certain topic. So if you're looking for example, the most relevant or biggest audiences for people talking about vegan or keto or sustainable fashion, anything like that, you can use it to really surface who are those journalists I should be contacting. And again, it's about the relevancy of those results and the big data intelligence that it's using behind it to surface us this data in a way we've never seen before.
So help me make the comparison of new versus old strategy. Today, you use artificial intelligence. I mentioned ChatGPT probably in every podcast so far this year. Hey, give me a list of all of the people that are writing about podcast advertising and monetization. And I'll get a list, and Brian Barletta is going to be at the top of the list.
Exactly.
How is that different than what I would have done last year before everybody got all excited about artificial intelligence? Wouldn't I just be Googling a list, and isn't similar data already there? Like, hasn't somebody created content and context that I would find in a search engine as opposed to artificial intelligence?
I think how you did that before and how it's still done, it's very manual process. You're either doing your own research, identifying contacts maybe for your media list and putting that together, or having to use other softwares out there that are pretty expensive or cost prohibitive to use that can provide those lists. But they are only using the data that they have. Like, you're relying on that software's own data. When with ChatGPT, you have access to much larger data sets. So one, I think it can be more affordable and it's like a DIY. You can do it on your own. But I do think that it helps you save time and it makes the process more efficient. And I think the results are more accurate.
That's really what I'm not sure about yet. And maybe this is just me. Like everybody did when Google came to prominence, what was the first thing they did? You Google yourself. And unfortunately for me, when somebody Googles Ben Shapiro, it's a political podcaster. It's not me, right? It's most likely going to be somebody else who shows up as the first few results. When I looked in ChatGPT and asked for the list of the most popular MarTech podcasts or marketing podcasts in the world, the MarTech podcast wasn't on that list. We get 60 to 90,000 downloads a month in Apple's charts. We've peaked at number 1 in the business podcasts for 2 or 3 months in a row. We've definitely been one of the most prominent marketing podcasts in the United States, if not the world, for a meaningful period of time. Maybe not the biggest, but we're up there. And we weren't on ChatGPT's list. I'm not saying that we're the biggest, best podcast in the whole world, but my hope is that we're in the conversation. And I think that we've earned that, but we're not on ChatGPT's list. The artificial intelligence hasn't found us or realized it. So that to me says, well, maybe there is something either wrong with my ego or the data. Knock me down a peg. Tell me that I'm wrong and it's not that ChatGPT actually just doesn't have all the information.
I think, yeah, it's getting updated all the time as it's happening. What the results that we're so used to seeing is like the Google results, or again, when we think of Google as its own software, has its own data. I think ChatGPT is combining so many other data sets. That's why those results can change over time. But yeah, is it perfectly accurate at any given time? No. But I do think that it is less biased, let's say, than some other softwares that we would use to get this information. Last question I have for you. How do I bias ChatGPT to get them to start promoting my podcast? I think that's really the big question here. You're going to talk to someone there. There's no people there. It's all artificial intelligence that's howling at the moon. I know. We'll see it go. We'll see it update. We'll keep checking back. We're going to have to keep our eye on it. And hopefully someday either I will come to my senses or the artificial intelligence will realize the grandeur and greatness of the MarTech podcast. All right, I'll stop it there. That wraps up this episode of the MarTech podcast. Thanks for listening to my conversation with Michelle Songy, the CEO and founder of PressHook. Join us again tomorrow when Michelle and I continue our conversation asking the question, does PR actually convert into qualified leads? If you can't wait until our next episode and you'd like to learn more about Michelle, you can find a link to her LinkedIn profile in our show notes. You can contact her on Twitter. Her handle is Michelle Songy 8, which is MICHELLESONGY and then the number 8. Or you could visit her company's website, which is presshook.com. Just one more link in our show notes I'd like to tell you about. If you didn't have a chance to take notes while you were listening to this podcast, head over to martechpod.com where we have summaries of all of our episodes and contact information for our guests. You can also subscribe to our weekly newsletter, and you can even send us your topic suggestions or your marketing questions, which we'll answer live on our show. Of course, you can always reach out on social media. Our handle is MarTechPod, MarTechPod, on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Or you can contact me directly. My handle is Ben J. Shap, BenJShap. And if you haven't subscribed yet and you want a daily stream of marketing and technology knowledge in your podcast feed, we're going to publish an episode every day during the year. So hit the subscribe button in your podcast app and we'll be back in your feed tomorrow morning. All right, that's it for today. But until next time, my advice is to just focus on keeping your customers happy.